Hi everyone, I'm back again, and today I want to continue with this topic of what is growing in the spirit. Since this is a topic that at least I have not heard anybody talk about um, outside of religious communities and putting some religious language to it or whatnot, I come to you from um, I'm not an atheist by any means, but I want to bring this to you in a way that you guys can understand because I understand that a lot of you may not like that religious aspect. But somebody did ask me this question, and I'm bringing it to you so you guys can understand it as a secular community and get to understand this also because it happens, as a blind person. We have our experiences and we need to approach this in different ways so all of you, religious and non religious people, can understand it. And so that's what I'm doing. Regardless if you believe that there's such a thing as a spirit or not, that's beside the point. Um, so I was talking about this friend who was denied service just because he didn't have any shoes. And they didn't stop and think maybe this person has a disability and he's not able to talk and he needs help, he's hungry or whatnot. The same thing happens with homelessness. There are a few videos on YouTube where somebody is trying to buy food for a homeless person, goes into a restaurant, brings the guy with him, and the restaurant refuses to serve the person, not the homeless, well, the homeless person too, but he refuses to even serve the guy that brought the homeless person in. So it seems as if restaurants can do whatever they want. And we have two things. We can either accept it and go to another restaurant or fight for it, which would be pointless. And this is why these videos are made. Because the only way that we're going to be able to create some sort of awareness, the only way that we're going to be able to make these rules change is not by fighting against the establishment by saying, "Where's your manager?" and, these so called Karen videos. No, it's going to be through dialogue. You have to talk about your problem. Why don't you think it's fair? Do it in a way that makes sense to people and not just feel that you're entitled to something because of the Constitution or whatever it is. In this case, for example, um, I was saying that the person who had the disability, my friend, he could have gone to another restaurant, but it would have been more of the same, perhaps. He wouldn't have been able to let his needs known to other people because people assume a lot when they see something. And it's time that we open our eyes and say, people are not going to be like us. People are going to be different in every way, and we're going to have to learn to assimilate to that. I've spoken about this subject and how the United States likes to say, well, undocumented people or anybody who comes to this country must assimilate to this country. We're Americans, so therefore learn the language, learn the culture, and so forth. But it should be the other way around, I think. When we look at this from a broader perspective, for example, I am blind. I was born that way. I am still blind, totally blind. More than likely, I will remain blind for the rest of my life. given that I am going to make sure that I bring people into my world, I am going to make sure to make these videos because you may not like this, but there's going to come a time and place, not now, but maybe in 10, 15, 20, 25 years from now, where you will become disabled in one way or the other. Your parents, your children. A lot of people don't realize that their children will be born with a disability or with some sort of illness, because that's not what their first thing in mind. It's, oh, I'm going to have a child. How happy I am. And they're totally unprepared for what's to come. And so when the child with the disability comes, or when they are in an accident that leaves them paralyzed or blind or whatnot, they don't know how to react to that. And so do you think the community is going to cater toward them? No, it's not. And in this instance, you know, it would have been great if people would watch videos such as this one, so you guys can experience my world for a bit. So when you become blind, or if that's the case, it's not going to be any easier, but at least you guys are going to have the tools to do it. That's called taking society and making it aware. But how is a blind person, in this case, going to assimilate to the United States? Things were not designed for us. Things were not made for us. We do with what we have, and then we have to learn to use it. But you're not going to see a bunch of people protesting the way that they were doing during the pandemic, the way sighted folks were doing. So you see how we've become entitled? You may not be blind, but you're still entitled. You still are entitled. You still have that attitude. But you dare say that we as the disabled community are entitled because we expect this, and that. That's no different than than what you guys did during the pandemic. You thought that the government should cater to your needs, that the government and other private establishments should do this because of your so-called constitution, the rights that you so-called, rights. When the Constitution, when the United States, when all these laws, including private restaurants or businesses in general, have never had our needs in mind, as I have said on other videos as well. Architecturally speaking as well, like the buildings and stuff like that, if it wasn't for the ADA, the United States would be just like the rest of the world that doesn't have adequate accommodations for people with disabilities. And growing in the spirit means that you're just going to have to take that for what it is. It does not necessarily mean that you're going to sit back and not do anything about it. It doesn't mean just that you're going to take it. It means that you are going to do your best to follow the rules that are in place as best as you can. And although it might be hard, there's always a way out. There's always a way to do things such as protesting, such as being an activist, and bringing these changes a little at a time. But it's not going to serve us any better when we act as 5-year-olds or 2-year-olds trying to get our way. When we start acting that way, like entitled brats that we are, we're able to see that we have not grown in the spirit, that we have not matured as people. And a lot of people ask, well, if God exists, I'm going to bring this to the spiritual level for a bit. If God exists, how come he didn't prevent the pandemic? Or how come he didn't prevent this? Or how come he didn't prevent that? It's easy to blame others for our own mistakes in life. There's a reason why we have earthquakes, why we have pandemics, because we've had more than one. There's a reason why we have natural disasters, and this has to do a lot with spiritual maturity. We have them because, in a way, Earth itself, life itself, is forcing us to change. People say, you can't tell me what to do. You can't force me. You can't force someone to do something that they don't want to do. An individual can't. They're not able to. But life has a funny way of having you change your mind. It has that power over you. I know some of the things that I'm talking about may seem disjointed to you, that you may not be able to understand. You might say, what is this guy talking about? But these videos are only for those people who pay attention, who listen to what I have to say, who listen to these words. For example, you may think that you may not be, you might rebel against the idea of, I'm not going to have Facebook, I'm not going to have any social media presence or whatnot. I'm not going to live without, I'm not going to live with a phone. I'm not going to live with artificial intelligence or whatnot. In its day, it was your social security number. I'm not going to have that. You can't force me to have something. No. But as the years go by, you're slowly, starting to see how there's a shift. And nothing will get done if you don't have a social security number, if you don't have papers, you get denied services. If you're blind, let's say, there's a lot of things you can't do. And I can go on and on. But it becomes harder and harder not to use something as AI. It's becoming harder not to use a smartphone because it has its advantages, such as in my case, but it has its disadvantages as well. And so growing in the spirit means that you're just going to have to take things for what they are and learn to live with the things that you have. I hope I'm making some sense here, and you guys are able to understand what I'm trying to say. Um, I'll leave this here. I'll make a third part to this just in case you guys are not entirely clear, and I'll leave it at that one. Thank you very much. If you guys have enjoyed this video and are considering subscribing, please do so. Um, Again, I'm a totally blind person who just says what he thinks. I don't claim to be right. There's a lot of things I don't know. There's a lot of things I can't explain. I'm just here to make you aware that there are other opinions out there, opinions that you have not heard before. And why not hear a difference in opinion once in a while? And it's refreshing to hear it from the unexpected person, and that happens to be a blind one. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.